Hello and welcome to Control Alt Record. My name is Chris, and with you for this episode is Grax and Brett. We've got a few games to talk about tonight. We've got Vermintide 2, Sea of Thieves, Kingdom Come Deliverance, and of course we'll have general news and nonsense throughout the entire show. If you do like this show, please jump onto iTunes and give us a rating and a review. It's very much appreciated. And of course, check out our other channels such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You will find all the links in the description of this episode. But let's get into the show.
You're listening to Control Alt Record.
All right, so before we get into the games, let's go into a bit of news and just general stuff that's going on around the internet. So you guys have, I'm sure, heard of the game Fortnite.
Oh yeah,
I know of it. Yes.
Of this small game.
Chris, tell me about this Fortnite you speak of.
Well,
what is it?
It's actually a battle royale game that has basically been ripped off of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and I'm sure by now all of our listeners, all four of you, have listened and actually know about what this game is, because we've talked about it in the past, particularly around PlayerUnknown's Battleground. But Fortnite is coming to mobile now. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but yeah, it's actually going to be. I think that's a little bit weird to bring Fortnite to mobile.
PUBG's available on mobile.
Yeah, I was just going to say
China.
that's another thing they're ripping off.
Oh, in China.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I kind of feel those types of games it just doesn't make sense to be on mobile.
It'll be a money thing for sure.
I'm sure it is, but I just kind of think that it's a.
How does it work though? Like,
yeah,
like do you use the accelerate whatever that thing is in your phones to turn the phone to move your character, or are you using your fingers? Like that would be.
I would have little control pads on the screen like they do with sort of emulates a controller. It'll be horrible, I'm sure. But
mouse and keyboard, please.
If you're on your way to work or something, you might want to, and you just really have to play, and you can't wait 8 hours to get home.
You really need to shoot some people.
Get some Fortnite in.
Somebody's upsetting you on the train. Load up Fallout on your phone.
Fallout.
Fortnite. Well, Fallout would be better. Sorry.
We are 4 minutes into the show and already getting our games wrong. Good stuff. We know our shit. Anyway, move on. Fortnite, whatever. There you go. If you've never played it or want to know a little bit more about it, it is coming to your mobile, so you can't escape it.
It's become massively, massively popular in the last few months as well. I think a lot of people are getting fed up with PUBG and all the hackers and stuff. So it's just gone crazy.
Yeah, there was some big stream the other day where that rapper Drake was playing with one of the known Fortnite streamers, and they had ridiculous amounts of people watching the live stream, like it broke records and stuff. So
600,000. Yeah. So
it's a thing.
Yeah, as you said, the Twitch streamer Ninja has.
That's
him. He's sort of supposed to be. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old for this shit. But
that's definitely true.
He's supposed to be, I think, one of the number one Twitch streamers, and with Drake coming on, their particular stream hit like 600,000 viewers at once, which is the biggest in Twitch history now. So there you go, a little bit of info for you. But I think also where Fortnite has probably been so successful is. Or I kind of feel, I don't know if it is yet, but it's sort of taken over the battle royale genre, because there seems to be a lot more attention on that now compared to where PUBG's at. But I think because of the introduction of the different game modes that Fortnite continue to sort of introduce, I know PUBG's just released a new map and things like that, but it just sort of feels that with...
No, they haven't. What?
The new map was a while ago now.
There's a new map announced. It's not out yet, though.
The desert one?
Yeah, that's out.
Oh, that one. Well, that came out in October or November last year.
Yeah.
Well, So, but there hasn't been really much since then.
You said it just came out. It's like
it felt like it was recent ago.
No, there's a new one. There's a new map that's like it's a lot smaller, so it's going to be more chaotic and more action sort of based. And I think that's coming out in the next. That'll be out in the next few months.
Because I think some of the game modes that Fortnite introduced, I think they were like limited time events type things. So I don't know if I don't think they're permanent in there. Maybe that'll change. But I guess with PUBG and your Fortnite, the traditional game mode, it's 99 players or 100 players, and it's an absolute free-for-all. Unless you're into teams, 2s, 3s, or 4s, you can group up and just kill everyone else. But they've brought in other game modes such as like 50 versus 50 or 5 teams of 20, and so they're sort of adding a little bit of a different dynamic to the team play in it. But I think they were just limited time events.
Like as a sort of PUBG player, I don't really play it that much anymore. But the main reason wasn't because of the game modes or anything. I didn't get bored of the actual game. I just got sick of the hackers all the time.
Yeah,
and you just get to the point where I just can't be bothered playing it because I know that if I, get to the top 10, I'm probably going to get taken out by a hacker. And Fortnite doesn't have that problem because it doesn't have the whole loot box system worth money like PUBG does. So there's no incentive for hackers to get on there. So
do you think that could be a potential reason as to why we might be seeing a lot more attention with players going on about Fortnite because of that hacking reason?
I mean, that's the thing. I was like, maybe I'll just play Fortnite. I even thought about that myself because I was like, well, at least I know I'm not going to get killed by hackers all the time.
Yeah.
True. At least it's a fair contest. That's the thing,
True,
if you want to feel like you're achieving something, and as soon as a hacker appears or you get aimbotted from across the map, you're just like, well, why the fuck am I doing this? It's like it takes the fun right out of it.
As any hackers just suck the life out of any sort of fun. Sticking with Epic for a little bit though, they had a game, a MOBA, Paragon. So MOBA, if you're not sure what a MOBA is, it's a massive, or is it a multiplayer? I think it's massive online battle arena. I can't remember if it's massive or multiplayer, but I think it's massive. Where if you think of like League of Legends, something like that is a MOBA. So Paragon is a game they developed for about 2 years. And it followed a very similar sort of game structure that a League of Legends would follow, where you got your different lanes that you've got to try and defend. And
it's multiplayer, not massive.
That's what I'm saying. I wasn't sure if it was. Well, I said multiplayer. I didn't
I'm just confirming that with you.
All right.
Yeah, we both just Googled. He just beat me.
I heard
it wouldn't be massive because it's only how many players are in there.
Well, that's I think I got sort of cross between massive multiplayer online game,
you're wrong,
and then I was like. Anyway, I did say I wasn't 100% sure, but I knew it was one of them. But the difference with Paragon is it's like a third-person MOBA, essentially. Now, that was in development for 2 years, and as of April 26th, so in a month's time, they're actually shutting the game down. So basically, there wasn't enough players.
How does that work? They're shutting it down in a month. Like, what if there wasn't enough players or wasn't enough issue with the development?
I guess it's probably just to give... If there are any sort of small amount of current players, it's probably just giving them the opportunity to wind down, I guess. I don't know, but it's just to announce it. But I think what they're actually doing is actually pretty good in terms of giving back to maybe the community. You could look at it. They had $12 million worth of game assets, which they're releasing to the public for free. So one thing with Epic that they do is they actually develop the Unreal Engine. You can go to the Epic launcher, you can go to them and kind of just, if you want to develop games, they'll give you the Unreal Engine 4 for free. And then you can go and create whatever you want through that. And with all the assets that they created for Paragon, they're just giving that all away for free as well. So all the characters and the models, the textures and the whatever else went into it, free. $12 million worth. Here you go, guys. The game didn't work out. We're shutting it down. So here's all our stuff.
That's pretty cool.
But they do. There is a catch with the Unreal 4 engine. If you do it and develop a game, and the game makes money, you have to give them a cut.
There's royalties.
It's not free.
That's reasonable though. Like it's there.
But I think it's a better model than charging people a certain amount because it means it sort of removes the barrier for entry.
Yeah,
and it's a really good engine to work with as well. It's really quite easy compared to other ones. So
yeah, I think it's like 15% on anything that if you do make a game that makes money. I think even though even if you make money, it has to still reach a certain threshold before that 15% will start to kick in. So it's just, I don't think it's a huge amount.
They're probably like with Paragon, they've probably just pulled the whole team off it and put them onto Fortnite because they're like, this is so successsul. Why are we going to waste our time with this other game?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably what's happened. But that percentage thing, that sounds completely reasonable. Like, if you've got...
definitely, yeah.
It saves you developing your own engine or using some other engine paying...
But I feel like Chris was making out like they were some sort of Mother Teresa type.
No, everybody's
just helping
in
the
it for the
community.
money
There's always something in it for them.
Yeah.
And, giving away all those assets for free, people will use those to develop games, which then in turn eventually will get the money back.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yes, of course.
But so they'll be able to recover something for their lost time anyway, which is fair enough. Hopefully that'll allow them to make better games in the future. And some other people to make some other cool indie games or whatever.
Helps everyone.
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
wins.
Win for the community.
Unlike EA.
Hey, the evil empire.
Yes. So they have, I think, just before the show, Grax, you did bring up about they are bringing back, of course, they've finally done it, bringing back loot boxes to Battlefront 2. At least they removed all the star cards. Yeah. I think that's at least a plus. I mean,
I think they had to, really. There was so much pressure from the community and all that negative publicity and their loss in stock and all that kind of jazz. Like, I think if they ever wanted to bring it back in any way, shape or form, they had to do it with some sort of cosmetic thing that wasn't going to impact the gameplay because, people would just arc up again.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the point. They are bringing the loot boxes back, but it's cosmetic stuff only. All the stuff that, if one of our previous episodes when we talked about this, and so did the entire world in the gaming community talked about this, the stuff that you got out of the loot boxes were game-breaking things. They basically gave you the advantage over other players. That's all gone now. But either way, too little, too late.
Yeah, far too late. Now I haven't even had another look at Battlefront 2, and I'm the biggest Star Wars fan out there.
No,
I'd love to know what the numbers are of that game and how many people are. Are people still playing it, or is it dead already?
There would be some people out there.
You don't even hear about it anymore. It's like it's just died.
Let's have a quick look, see if I can
Google
Dr. Google. I won't use my keyboard.
They wouldn't release their numbers, I wouldn't think.
Especially people still
give
play
a shit about Battlefront
2? I'll do a quick search and see if what we can.
I don't think. Also, with the loot boxes, it's just cosmetic stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They could have kept that in from the start.
They could have done that from the beginning, and there wouldn't have been any outcry or backlash or whatever. Would have been fine.
Exactly, but it's a yay, so they fucked it up. Brett, HTC Vive. You wanted to talk about that. What's going on with that? They're releasing something.
Well, so there's a new version, the HTC Vive Pro. So there was announced a little while ago. It's got an increased resolution of 2880 by 1600. It's also got built-in headphones, which I don't believe the other one had. I know the Oculus does, but this one doesn't. It's going to be released. It's going to be arriving in April, so next month. Price though, $1,199 in Australia. Which is the same price the original Vive was in 2016.
Say, that's not too bad considering the old price. Like the old Vive is cheaper now, but the current Vive you can get for, well, I don't know about Australian pricing. It's $499 US. So I guess probably 1,000 or something. I don't know. It's probably cheaper than that, but yeah. You can pre-order as of today, and they'll begin shipping on April 5. In case you guys are feeling generous, my birthday's in April. If you want to get me one, no worries. I'm happy to receive that gift, and I'll do a review for you for free.
Certainly keep that in mind.
Are you just saying that to me and Chris, or the listeners?
Mate, I'll throw it out there to anyone.
I'll chip in $5.
I'll haul myself out like Chris for a marketing ploy. No worries.
So I assume you guys have used oh, hang on. I'm just sort of still reading the article. The price for the Vive Pro, it doesn't include the base stations or controllers.
Oh, okay. So how much extra is that going to sting me for?
That's not that good. I don't know about that.
I have to say,
look that up.
Like the old, I don't know if they've changed it in the new version, but the old Vive controllers I liked the look of much more than the Oculus ones. Just from the videos I've seen, like bulky, I haven't had to use, or like haven't had the chance to use either of them, so I couldn't tell you from how they feel. But what I've seen in videos and reviews and stuff,
they're pretty good.
Yeah,
they do feel quite light. Like they're pretty big though, but they're very good quality. They feel nice and. But I haven't actually used the Oculus controller, so I can't compare the two. It's kind of interesting though. I can't believe they don't include doesn't include the base stations or controllers. I'd just be interested to see how much more that is.
Yeah,
because that's a kind of shitty, really.
I wonder if that's a thing that you could use if you were wanting to upgrade the headset from the previous one, and you could.
Well, I think that's what they're sort of looking at. Yeah, you can use the old ones. But if it's like someone like me who doesn't own a Vive, it's like, I want to buy the kit. What am I going to be up for like $1,500? That's what it sounds like.
It's kind of like it sounds beneficial for someone who already had the HTC.
Are they perhaps not updating the rest of the kit, and you'll just use the Vive 1.0 hand controllers and stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. But it's like, as a new buyer, it still means, you order.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it starts to get
surely
up there.
There'd have to be some sort of package deal. They'd be nuts not to do that. Like, you're kind of cutting out more than half your market.
It's interesting, though. The new resolution is a 78% increase over the old one. So if you've used a Vive...
that's huge.
I know Chris has. It sort of looks good, but quite sort of pixelated still. So it'd be nice to see that increase in resolution. I think that'll make a significant difference to it. Also, having the built-in headphones is nice as well.
Yeah, it should do. I mean, I think it's good to see that they're finally got the headphones in, because that was always like a felt sort of a bit annoying having to use separate headphones when attaching in sort of all these extra sort of visual devices, etc. So it's good that they're actually including that. But I kind of, for that price, it does sound a bit like I have no incentive to buy that as much as I want VR. But at that price, with all the missing components, sort of
because you want the wireless kit as well.
Yeah.
But then in saying that, I mean, I'm only going to use it for something like Star Citizen, so I don't. Yeah. Do I really care about the controllers and things like that? So,
true. What about the wireless thing? Would you want that?
Well,
I found one of the most annoying things is those big, those massive heavy wires that come off you. It sort of limits you so much.
For me personally, I don't think that would that's not really going to bother me, because the games that I want to play it for, I'm sitting. You're
going to be sitting in front of your monitor. Yeah,
I'm not going to be sort of up walking about. When we've done like packs and things like that, and we've tested out sort of VR sort of stations and setups where you've got bits and pieces to walk on. They had it set up really well because of, I guess, where the headset is. On the top of it, all the wires go up a pole and away from you. So it's set up and designed that way. You're not going to have that in your household. So yes, the wires are going to, get really in the way. So I think wireless still concerns me in its current early state, just because while the technology is still being developed. Is someone knocking their microphone?
Well, sorry, that was me. Apologise.
Bloody. Professionalism. Thy name is Brett.
It's not me.
Not you? Okay, Grax. God damn it.
No, it wasn't me.
I don't know. I think the technology is still too far off for wireless to be as beneficial as people need it to be. That's just my thoughts anyway.
It's getting there.
It's getting there.
By the time Star Citizen comes out to full release, it'll be good.
Oh, it'll be amazing. It'll just be like contact lenses, and then you're suddenly there.
Exactly. That's why I won't even look at VR until Star Citizen's coming out. So I got a while before that's going to happen. So, Brett, you also had another piece of news. What else did you want to talk about? There was something, but you told me before the show, and I've already forgotten what it was.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about Sea of Thieves coming up.
Yes, we are.
If you would like, there's a way to get the game for free for 2 weeks. All you have to do is go to www.xbox.com and sign up for the Xbox Game Pass, which you can get a 2-week free trial and actually includes Sea of Thieves on there. So you can get the game and sort of test it out for 2 weeks before you decide if you want to buy it, or you can just keep going with the Xbox Game Pass for $10.95 per month. Don't know if that's Australian or US, probably US. But also includes like another 100 games with it as well. So it seems like a pretty good deal. I've just signed up for it.
When did they release that Game Pass? Because I kind of feel a little bit shitty about this, because I was on the Microsoft Store yesterday and there it was $99.95, and I didn't see anything about a Game Pass. Now, while I was at work today, Grax, you're like, oh, okay, I've got it. I've already played it. I've started playing it. It's really cool. So I was like, cool, I want to go buy it from my phone, and I bought it. And then, an hour later, Brett, you're like, oh, there's a Game Pass. I'm like, that wasn't fucking there yesterday.
And that's what happened to me too. Like when I looked at it in the Microsoft Store on your Windows icon, you click on it and go there. There was a drop-down box for purchase or add your key or all that kind of stuff. And after I'd bought it, then it appeared in that little drop-down box. You can play for free, and I'm like, what the fuck? I just bought it, you bastards.
Yeah, that wasn't there yesterday.
I don't know. I just saw it because I was on Reddit and I was just at work, and I was reading about Sea of Thieves, and there were people posting in there about it. So yeah, I wouldn't have seen it otherwise. It was just luck, really, that I saw it before I bought it. So
my question about the Game Pass then is it one of those things that you have to sign up for, give them your credit card details or your bank account details, and if you don't want to go ahead with the trial, you cancel it after 2 weeks, or and then nothing gets
before
billed
they charge
you, or is it one of those things, that marketing ploy where if you forget to cancel it, you are stung for 6 months or 12 months or a monthly fee or whatever?
Well, no, it's they'll charge you for a month if you don't cancel it. So I've put a note in my phone.
The worst you're in the hole for is 2 weeks worth of free game, and potentially if you forget to cancel, $10.
Yeah, $10.95.
Disclaimer. Don't take our word for it. Read the terms and conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if that's definitely the case, actually. But what I did was I just put a reminder in my phone, in sort of 13 days' time, check Xbox Game Pass and if I want to keep it or not, and also see that I'm not going to get slugged.
That's the thing, it is.
But if you do get slugged for like $500, you can absolutely blame Brett. No problems at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it would be
all
that.
complaints to the website.
I think it would just be $10.95. Well, no, I talked to Microsoft about it. It's not they're the one offering it. I'm just saying...
shedding some
saying
light.
what they're saying.
Do your own due diligence beforehand.
Yeah.
But it is like I kind of feel, looking at the Microsoft Store, $99.95. I kind of feel that is quite pricey.
Yeah,
it's very pricey.
When I kind of balked at it to start with, and then you guys were talking about it for a few months, and I thought, okay, I'll get it. Like I skipped Vermintide 2, which you guys are going to talk about later. So I figured I'll get this one. And
but that was like $25.
I know, and see, that's the other thing. I probably could have got that instead and been, $75 better off. But yeah, what do you do?
So just be mindful of that. If you are unsure about Sea of Thieves, although we have very briefly, and when I say we, that's Grax and myself, have very briefly played it. So when we talk about it, we're just going to be talking about a very short first impression on it.
Talk about it now. Tell us about it.
Yeah, might as well roll into it.
We'll segue into it. But I don't think what we are probably going to talk about, if it sounds like a game for you, maybe do a bit of research on it, because like I said, we haven't got much exposure to it, and $100 is a lot if you feel it falls short on you. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, Sea of Thieves was released today. We've been talking about it for quite some time, ever since I think it was sort of released or shown over the last year or two ago now. It was E3 last year or the year before. And so I've played about 30, 45 minutes of it so far. Grax, you played a little bit longer.
Yeah, I've given it about 2 hours this afternoon, 2 and a bit. 2 hours,
so a little bit more significant than myself. So what is Sea of Thieves? Just very briefly, you play a pirate in an open world. You sail your ship with your crew, your Mihardis, and off you go doing whatever you want. And you kind of don't really get given a bit of a direction at the start. You wake up in a tavern, and it's like, this is how you walk, this is how you open your menus, and then once you're done,
that's it.
Out you go.
There's not too much of a tutorial, really, is there?
No, there's not. But I'm fine with that, because I like being able to discover things as I go. You really do need to play. My early impressions, you really do need sort of people and friends to play with. Before Grax, we jumped on together. I sort of went and got on my ship and went sailing by myself. I was in a very small ship, so it wasn't too bad to manage. But of course, if I get into a fight, because there's different components to your ship, you need someone on the wheel, you need people on cannons, you need people controlling the sails, you need people on a map directing the person on the wheel. I'm sure that is it wheel, or is there like a definitive term for, I don't know, pirate
let's
ships?
just call it the wheel.
We'll just call it the wheel.
Yeah. I think the whole point of Sea of Thieves is that it's an MMO that you play with your mates. So I think you can have up to 4 people in your crew, and it absolutely would be a load of fun with 4 of your mates running around, looting, pillaging, doing quests, sailing the seas, that kind of stuff.
Which we will be doing tomorrow.
Absolutely. But
and hopefully just after this show.
Yes, hopefully.
Oh yeah, and after the show. Hurry up, get on with it.
Drop by for some exclusive
thank
videos.
you so much for listening. we'll catch you next week.
There is. You can.
I've already got it loaded. I'm already sailing into a cave at the moment.
Okay, don't crash. You can play it single player.
Oh, it's the Kraken. Oh god.
You can play it single player, which I did this afternoon for a while.
Oh, do you mean with single player as in on your own?
No, single player out in the MMO area.
Oh, okay. So
you just pick the small ship, and the smallest ship. So you can pick a galleon, which is the big ship, or a sloop, which is a small one, and you can choose whether you want to have a crew or whether you want to sail solo. So
if you're sailing solo, do you can control all the parts of the ship from one spot, or do you still have to like run around?
No, that's where the difficulty is. So you have to adjust your direction from the wheel, then do your sails in a different spot, do your anchor, do your mapping. It's all in different parts of the ship. So that's obviously your friends would make that a lot easier. And this afternoon, like I was having a great time on my own. It's manageable as long as you've got you're sort of on top of where you're going and you've got your timing so you don't crash into reefs and islands and stuff. But as soon as you get attacked by a group of other players who are even half organised, there's no way on your own you can. Yeah, basically I was fucked. It happened so many times. Yeah. You can't steer your ship, man the cannons, maneuver out of the way, and then get into a sword fight. You can't do it on your own. It's just really painful.
Does everyone just attack you on sight, essentially?
Not so. I've had some in the short 2 hours that I've played. I've had some good interactions with some people. You know, the ones that run around and jump up and down and wave and how you doing, and you know, generally nice people that hang.
Do you use your microphone to talk to them? Like,
yes, you do.
Is that how it works?
So the game will ask you permission to use your microphone when you log in, and if you say no, then the only thing you've got. I haven't found a way to type yet. There's preset emotes that you can enact with your character where they'll wave and dance and jump, but there's also preset phrases that you will say in chat, but you can't type them. You've got to use them from an emote wheel. So I haven't found a way to actually physically type stuff, and I think they've probably not got that in the game, which might be a good thing to stop people saying, "Hey, fuck your mum," and all that kind of, you know. So it is. I think the game rating is 12.
Horrible.
12 years old, so you know I think they're sort of got that in there to protect the younger people, and you know it's one of those games. I've spoken about this in a few podcasts. I struggle with cartoony looking games. From like to get into them, I prefer more realistic looking, high fidelity graphics and stuff like that. But I've got to say it's good fun. I've had a lot of fun in it, and once I got past the fact that it was the cartoon style Fortnite, the old World of Warcraft type of graphics, I've really enjoyed it. But
doesn't the ocean look really amazing and stuff?
Yes,
I heard the graphics are actually really good.
So the ocean, the sunset, the clouds, all that's kind of cool. It's just the characters and the islands. So like the buildings on the islands and stuff are what I would call cartoony. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that style. It's a stylized graphic. But it is really engaging. There's some cool quests. You really will have a lot of fun if you have a good team of navigators.
And there's some quests.
Definitely worth looking at.
Hello. We actually on the recording you'll probably be able to hear you, but we just lost you there. So
so FYI. So the last thing we heard you were talking about there's quests.
Yes.
What did you say after that?
I can't remember.
Exactly.
I can't remember. You can just rewind my recording.
No.
Yeah, there's.
Well, yeah, it's only the people would have heard it, so.
Probably have to cut this part
for everyone else, just for Brett. No, it's fine. We'll just leave it. For everyone else, it'll sound normal, except for Brett and I going, "Hello, you still there?" Hey,
the joys of my internet sucks balls. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the time I've had. And as Chris said, disclaimer: it's only been a couple of hours worth of gameplay, and only in the small ship. Chris and I actually hooked up for some multiplayer for about 20 minutes before we started recording tonight. And that
did a
was
quest
fun.
together.
Yeah, we did a quest.
Treasure.
Got that done. Dug up some treasure, some gold.
So you get the gold, and then that can buy you cosmetic items. Is that right?
Yes.
But you don't get any stats based loot. Is that correct?
I think you can buy equipment.
You can buy better equipment that is probably that enhances your ability in combat.
All right.
But it doesn't actually say. So you go to various traders and stuff, and there's muskets worth the $3.5 grand, you know, all the way up to 50 odd. And there's clothing and armor and all that kind of stuff.
But you're not buying the gold coins with real money.
No,
you
have to
actually
earn them.
quest and do missions. So that's fine. You're having to actually do work to get this stuff.
That's. I was just asking if it's like, I heard it was more cosmetic based items.
Yeah. So when you start the game, you've got a option to pick an avatar, and you can pick male or female. But the spawn screen, if you like, lets you choose what it spawns, I think, 6 or 7 different characters that you can choose. And then if you don't like the way those ones look, you can hit page down or whatever your hotkey is on your controller if you use a controller, and it'll spawn another 6, and you can go through them. If you don't like them, spawn another 6. And basically they just seem to have, different sets of body parts all kind of Frankenstein together, and you pick the one you want. Once you get into the game, you can actually change that further by buying cosmetic gear. So you can buy beards, you can buy hairstyles, you can buy clothing, just to sort of flesh out what your character looks like. You can buy peg legs and eye patches and hats and all that shit. And now I don't
get more.
I think it's iPads.
Yeah, buy iPads and then track where your ship is. But I don't know
GPS.
how much that affects your ability to play the game, like making you stronger or anything. I assume the weapons, when you upgrade your weapons, that'll make it better, but I really don't know about whether the clothing is better armor or anything like that.
Well, it's too early for us to tell right now. There doesn't seem to be any traditional RPG statistics.
I have had
strength, dexterity, vitality. I haven't seen that.
No, but I have had some pop-ups when I've done some sword fighting and stuff where it pops up and goes, your sword ability is increased by 1 or something. So
okay.
I don't know
that's cool.
where that's registered or whatever. I'm not sure.
So we'll also maybe do give listeners a little bit of a overview of our first mission together and what that sort of entailed. Very basic, very simple, but quite cool at the same time. So you start on your starting island, you get given a mission. Both Grax and I jumped onto our ship, and there's like a little bit of a map that you've got to then put down quest papers or mission papers, and then what the group actually does is vote on the one they want to do. And then the one who gets the most votes is actually the one that off you go and do. Then what you do is you turn around and there's actually a giant map of the entire world that you got to sort of scroll around. And you have to locate the actual island that you have to go and actually find your treasure on. And the way to do that is actually you get given a smaller map, which is given to you by the quest giver. And it just shows you simply a top-down view image of the island and its shape. So you actually then have to go and line up on the giant map where that is and actually find that identical shape on the big map. Circle it, and that's where you're heading. But to actually get to the island, there's no mini-map, there's no direction. If you're the one actually on the wheel sailing the ship, there's nothing to tell you which direction to go. Yeah. You actually need your group and your partner or someone in your crew downstairs on that map watching you sail, actually giving you directions.
Yeah, there's no heads-up display or
right.
sort of
none of that
waypoint or anything like that, which is really cool. It makes for some good gameplay.
It does, because you actually have to communicate with your mates, with your crew, to actually get to where you need to be. Eventually, we found ourselves there. It wasn't too far, which is great. We got to the first island, and as we sort of pulled up, I'm sort of trying to sail not to run into the rocks, and Grax, meanwhile, is pulling up the sail to stop the wind hitting into it, to push us forward and accelerate. And then once that was done, drop the anchor, and away we go. So we came across, well, I didn't get much of a chance. I threw a couple of cannonballs into a cannon.
You were shocking, man.
Aimed, because there's no cursor. There's no cursor at all. So
no aiming,
it's actually the aiming's a little bit more tricky. Chucked a couple of cannonballs into the cannon and shot at a couple of skeletons. Completely missed. Tried twice, missed. But at the time I reloaded and shot again, Grax was already on the beach hacking them up. Once you actually get there, what you get to do is pull out a bit of a mini-map of the island that you're actually on, and all there is simply a red cross, marks the spot, marks the treasure map. Marks the treasure. And you've got to then have a look at where you are located on the map and try and just visually work out, am I standing on top of it?
So it's like proper navigation.
Yeah. Once you hit the spot that you think you're in,
type thing.
Yeah, and then once you're actually on the spot where you think the treasure chest might be, out comes the shovel and spades and start digging until you find it. There it is, pop it out, pick it up, take your chest back to the ship, on it goes, head back to the starting location and hand it in. And we both, which was actually which was cool, even though it was my quest, and Grax joined in, got the same loot at the end, which is basically like 71 gold or something. It was even split, so it wasn't like my quest.
And I got some reward
and
as
he got
well.
Nothing.
What do you call it? Reputation as well.
Yeah, so there you go. So the reputation game, which I got as well, the money that you got as the reward, evenly spread, which is very cool, giving people an incentive to actually want to join in and actually do your quests as well. So that was a very quick snapshot of what that was. Very short, but still very cool. And I can't wait to start going on to the bigger ships when there's the 3 of us and maybe one more and get on a big galleon where there's multiple cannons and more things going on that we've got to worry about, and actually go into storms. And yes, I think you sort of jokingly said about a Kraken. I think there is supposed to be a Kraken.
Yeah, there's Kraken. Yeah, I've seen some videos. It looks like it's going to be fun.
But I think we'll continue to play it. We're going to put a few hours into it tomorrow, and what we can maybe do is come back next week and give further thoughts on whether we're still playing with it, because I do hope the mission design gets better, gets more in sort of detail and more depth as the game goes on.
Yeah. That's my concern. My only concern about it is that you've got several different factions that you have to increase your reputation with by doing quests for them, and each of the different factions have different types of missions. So the one we did today for you, Chris, was go find a buried treasure, a buried chest of gold. So that's their particular thing, and I think that gets harder, and eventually they're under the ocean and all that kind of stuff.
From what I saw in some of the testing, the beta testing with people playing it, where there were people finding or coming across treasure maps which all you simply got was a riddle. That's it. Something puzzle you've got to figure out yourself with no help. You've got to work it out.
Yeah.
And I think that type of thing's got to be very cool.
Yeah, definitely. So that should keep it interesting.
I think we'll talk about more on Sea of Thieves in our next episode once we put a bit more time into it, and maybe see and give you guys our opinion on whether we think the $100 price tag is worth it. Vermintide 2, another multiplayer cooperative game that is more fun with friends. So a bit of a similar theme there. A bit sucky when you're on the solo side, but if you've got friends, very enjoyable. So Vermintide 2 was just released, which actually Brett and I have been pretty much hammering out over the last sort of week quite a bit. But Brett, you've put more hours in than me, that's for sure. So tell us, give us your opinions on Vermintide 2.
Okay, well, it's as I always do, I like to give you a comparison game. It's basically Left 4 Dead, but Warhammer.
How basically is it?
Left 4 Dead 1 or 2? Or
it's like
all of them.
Well, they're it's like the same game basically. I mean, you couldn't get that much closer.
It's Left 4 Dead reskinned.
Yeah, without it being called like Left 4 Dead Warhammer, or Warhammer Left 4 Dead, it couldn't be much closer. I mean, even the enemies are similar. It's basically cooperative. You got 4 players. You've got 5 different classes to choose from, and you basically go through the game. You need to get to the end, and that involves a lot of enemies, a lot of killing. You've got different types of bosses, different challenges and stuff like that. You do need to work together, and obviously all the different classes have different skills and abilities. And we found the more you play, the more you have to sort of leverage the abilities of the classes. Like, for example, I've been playing I don't think it's actually called Assassin. What do you remember what it's called, Chris?
Ranger?
No, it's not Ranger. It's like a rogue type thing, and I've found that you pretty much have to, it does a lot of damage, that class, but you pretty much will go down in 2 hits.
So like a glass
Chris
cannon
was
kind
playing,
of thing.
Yeah, definitely glass cannon. But Chris was playing like the warrior type character, and
shield and sword.
Yeah, he'd go in, have to take the hits, and I would basically go around and come up from behind and just like stab the shit out and kill everyone. But you do need to sort of coordinate your abilities and definitely play to your strengths of the different.
So it is basically like Left 4 Dead and probably Diablo a little bit, that had a baby and got together, and what you had was basically a FPS Diablo. So
is there much difference between it and Vermintide 1? Like, did you?
No.
It's basically the same thing again. New version.
Very similar.
Okay.
Just new.
Just for people that may have got the first one or something, because I've not played either. But it's the second version of a game. Is how different is it?
I briefly played Vermintide 1. It was actually on sale on Steam a couple of weeks ago for like $7, and I heard a lot of good things about it, but never played it. So I decided to pick it up and decide to risk the $7 in case it was shit, and I didn't like it because I know exactly. But that's the thing. I didn't want to say go and pre-order or buy Vermintide 2, which was $30, to find out it was shit. So I decided I'll give Vermintide 1 a crack. And so I played that for about an hour or two, and actually now going across into Vermintide 2, where I put, I think, maybe 10 to 15 hours in. Basically the same. Pretty much the same. A couple of things I think lacks in it is actually there's no story-driven narrative. So you kind of...
There is.
That's not really. I feel it's a bit weak.
There's some text that says some stuff. I mean,
it's, it's okay. All right.
It's not exactly, it's not the strongest story. It's not Lord of the Rings or something. It's, it's very basic.
But, I mean... The other thing I think in the is loot, which is actually a little bit of a letdown as well. Because once you actually complete a mission, you get loot boxes. They're not purchase loot boxes. You've actually got to do things and actually find items and artifacts or tomes throughout the mission that you're playing. And what that actually does is the more stuff you find and retrieve will increase the level of box that you get. And the higher level that is, the better reward you get out of it. But even still, very lackluster in that part. And that's really the only way to increase your weapons. I kind of think, or increase the attributes of the weapons, the strength of what you've got. And even that feels a little bit stale at most, because if you start off, it's like, okay, my sword's a level 5 and I go and complete a mission and I get another sword, it's now level 6. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. I didn't really do much besides beat the level. I could go back and replay the same level and get the same sword again, and it's now level 7. So it kind of just feels a little bit like Destiny in a way the loot works, where as you get a new item, it just by default goes up in rank and strength.
It's different. It's different to Destiny because the enemies don't scale up with you. So you're playing on, the recruit difficulty level, and when you first start, it's really hard because your character's so weak. But then by the time you get to level 10, it's easy. You're just ripping them apart. So you do feel
that's the enemies, not the
Destiny,
weapons.
Yeah, but it's the weapons and your gear that's making you stronger. Whereas with Destiny, it's it just always felt the same. Because the enemies were scaled. It doesn't have scaling like that. It's then you go up to the next difficulty level, and then it gets harder again because all the enemies are tougher. But I noticed as I got stronger, I was feeling more powerful. I was killing more guys. I was killing them faster. You do feel that power increase. So I think I don't agree with the.
I'm more looking at it in terms of the variety of weapons that you can actually get, because one thing, if you play with for Diablo, for example, you go and a weapon will drop and it's you have when you're collecting, you've got to identify it. So you can actually see what you get in terms of the rolls on the attributes on that weapon to see how good it is. You don't know until you actually do that, and that sometimes leads to, yes, it is better, sometimes it's not. Oh fuck! So I've got to keep going to try and find something that's going to increase. With this one, it just goes up. It just goes from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. It just continues to go up.
There's also different types of weapons as well. So, you'd have the dual swords, or you'd have a sword and shield, or you'd have a spear. So. There are different play styles based on that, and the attacks are different. So there is some variety.
So how many different classes are there?
There's 5.
So is it your traditional warrior, DPS, healer type of thing? Or?
So there is 5 characters, and each character has 3 subclasses. So you get 15 all up.
Okay.
My math worked good. But yeah. So in the first one, you didn't have that. You just had the 5 characters. It's the same characters that have rolled over into the second one, but in the first one they didn't have subclasses. This time they do, so that is a bit of a win, which is I think quite cool. So you got different ones. You've got the foot soldier, or the bounty hunter, or the warrior guy. You've got a dwarf who does similar stuff, I think.
A lot of research.
Yeah,
we haven't played the dwarf.
We haven't played that. They all have their own individual names as well, so they're not just random people. They're names to these faces that people who play Vermintide 1 will recognize in Vermintide 2.
You're probably getting angry at us for our lack of
fucking it up. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You've got the elf chick with bows and arrows. Cool.
She's she's basically if you're talking the traditional, she's a rogue. There's a wizard type.
Yep. And then there's
fire wizard
and a witch hunter is the other character.
What's the witch hunter? He's not a witch doctor, is he?
No, he's a witch hunter. So I don't know what makes him particularly a witch hunter, because his weapons of choice is pistols and rapiers, and that's basically it. But then as he goes up in his different subclasses, his second one up, he gets a big Gatling gun. Wow. Apparently. And then the last one, it's just he's walking around with a giant sort of flail. So there you go.
Because
I don't know what that makes him
better than a Gatling gun. Sure.
Yeah, I know which one I'd rather.
Yeah.
until you run out of ammo.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
Yeah. But you get both. You get both a melee and a ranged weapon. All characters get a melee and a ranged weapon. So it's kind of cool. Some are just more proficient at that particular thing than others. Like if you want to use a bow and arrow, go the rogue. If you don't, you go a warrior. That type of thing.
See, you sort of your criticism is the gear, which I can see what you're saying, but I think there's good enough variety with considering you've got 15 different classes essentially, and they all play different, and you've got all the different combinations of gear. But I think the enemies in the game, I think that's where the game falls short for me, because you've got basically you play the first level, and you've essentially by the time you get to the end of the first level, you've pretty much come across all the enemies that you're going to come across, except for some of the different bosses which spawn, which are random spawns anyway. So you could, in theory, come across all the different ones. Usually only get one boss, or maybe sometimes 2 boss spawns per level. There's like 5 different bosses, but they just come up randomly, and then there's all the different rats and all their mates and stuff. So you get a good variety of enemies, but it's just always the same. So it doesn't matter what level you're doing, you're pretty much coming across the same guys, and it's just like, some variety here would be nice.
So
I think the only thing...
What's the purpose of the game? Like, what's the point? Like, you're stranded somewhere trying to get out, or you're going after a target? Or
no, you're like defending a city. Okay. There's a portal, and all the bad guys come through it. You kind of go through your different missions, eventually getting to the point where you go through the portal and then fight people on the other side and come back and blow it up.
Well, it's like the thing is like the... Isn't it the Skaven, I think they're called, and the Rot Bloods? And they're like, basically, they've, Vermintide they're like rats, so Vermintide, and it's just like, and they've just like taken over basically everything. So you're going in to get rid of them. Basically.
I know you said spoiler, but there's no story. You're not spoiling anything.
There is a story. I'm reading it.
And it's look, you're not playing Vermintide for any story. You're basically playing it because you can go in with friends with different characters and just hack and slash everything.
But the strength. Yeah, the strength is the way the game plays. Like, it's really satisfying, and it's you can hit different parts of their body. You hit their arms come off, their heads come off. Some of the guys are armored, so you got to hit them in the head, and like it's really accurate the way it sort of feels, and it plays really nicely. I think that's the strength of the game. It just feels good to kill people.
If you are playing,
Trump would love that.
Or rats, they're rats.
Well, that's the thing. It is actually very good.
Violence thing.
Oh god! Yeah. Another time. We don't have that much time tonight to go into that one. No, it is very cool. Like, you do get a lot of satisfaction when you've got like a big 2-handed sword and you come down on like a rat, and next thing you see is its head just pops off because you've decapitated it. Or instead of a 2-handed sword, you got a 2-handed mace, and you come in like a side swipe, and all you do is just knock 3 or 4 rats sort of up against the wall, and they're all just like splattered. It is very satisfying to go around just whacking all the enemies. One thing, how the team works, if you are playing solo, might not find it as fun. I tend to find that I've actually only played it very little on my own. Most of my 10 or 15 plus hours are actually with Brett.
Yeah,
I've played maybe
definitely
an hour by myself. Because one thing is, when you play it, similar to Left 4 Dead, your team is of 4 characters. If you take up one of those slots and you've got no friends, you get 3 bots, and they will play the other characters. Bots are pretty spot on, pretty good in the easy difficulties. Try to use like a little bit more difficult, and there's challenge levels. Not so much. You really need a bit of coordination. And I actually found then playing with random people was okay at times, but the communication very much lacks, because people are just running around hack and slash and trying to get as many kills as they can, which I personally found when I was with randoms trying to do that, I was less successful. When I would actually then go and play with Brett, and I had we'd maybe have 2 randoms with us, it was a little bit different, because at least Brett with his DPS range bow and arrow character, me with my sword and shield, I'd be standing there, and the only thing I'd literally be doing is with a shield, I can knock down like 5 people in front of me onto their asses, and he would just come from behind us, go stab, 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 or shoot with all the arrows. So we can actually put a bit of strategy behind it. I'd be knocking people down, stunning them, and he'd just be stabbing them, because for Brett, he needs to get behind them, inflict the damage. To do that, he needs a little bit of coverage to do that. So once we can actually do that, all of a sudden I think the game mechanic and strategy of the team-based work completely flipped, and that's when it became a lot more fun, in my perspective anyway.
Okay, so with
totally agree with that.
You mentioned that you get, better loot, better gear, that kind of stuff. Is there like a level progression or a stat upgrade or anything like that? Is that in the game as well? So you can put points into strength and agility and stuff like that?
No, not into strength. Sorry, you do go up in level, but once you hit certain milestones, you get talent talent points. So I say at level 10, for example, or level 5, you've got 3 things to choose from. Which talent do you want? One that's going to reduce damage, one that will increase your stamina, one will increase your health.
Special attack moves and stuff and things like that.
More passives from what I saw. I've got what am I, level 12? I think level 10 was like the second tier of talents. So passives is all I've seen rather than actual abilities.
Yeah, the special attacks are based on your subclass. So you choose and the subclasses are unlocked at like level 6. You get a new subclass, and then at level 12 you get a new subclass. So they're not necessarily stronger; they're just different. So for example, with the rogue character, if you go I think it's called the Shade at level 12, she has a really strong backstab attack, but you lose some of your defensive abilities, so she becomes even more of a glass cannon type thing. But you can choose your play style based on that.
Okay, cool.
Some of the things I do quite like about the sort of FPS melee combat side of things is you actually do have to be quite accurate with some of your enemies. Some of them are quite heavily armored and they have shields, and the only way you can damage them is by getting sort of like headshots or like neck shots where underneath their armor gaps. So you can't just hack and slash and just swing your sword or your mace around, just because if you hit their armor, all it does is sort of like knocks them a little bit, but you're not actually inflicting any damage. You can do certain combos, like if you hold down the left mouse button for my character, what I actually do is with my left arm, with the shield, I'm going to swing that out, stun them, but then immediately come in with my right hand and actually sort of like try and stab them in the face type thing. But I need to actually line up my cursor to make sure I'm aiming at their face. If not, if I'm aiming at their shoulder, I just deflect right off them. So you have to be quite precise with your attacks as well for certain enemies, which is, I think, another level which is quite good.
Okay, so it's not like point and click, and there's some skill.
There's heaps of skill, man. Yeah.
Okay.
For 90% of it, you're going to find it is quite hack and slashy, because that's 90% of your enemies are basically one-hit kills. But then that's what makes it cool, because you're like 50 rats running at you, and all you're doing is going, fucking and
there's a lot of timing with the like the blocks and the dodges and stuff like that. You really need to get a good timing going, and very, very skill based. It doesn't seem like it when you first play it, but as you go on, you absolutely need to.
Once you get into more difficult levels, you do need to be paying attention and communicate.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Interesting.
Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yes.
That is something that, Grax, you have been playing. I'm been flipping a coin on this one. I don't quite know if I want to pay the $80 on this one just yet.
Yeah.
See how you go. You also have about 5 minutes so we can go back to playing Sea of Thieves. Only joking. We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Go.
So Kingdom Come Deliverance, I picked this up a while ago, back when it was in beta, but I haven't actually played it until just recently. So it's a medieval roleplay game with a whole lot of lore, and they try to align the story fairly closely to the history of the time. So the story's based in Bohemia in 1403, and there's a lot of political upheaval and kings being kidnapped and all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. I won't spoil the story for you, because it's an interesting story. It's quite cool. Heavy RPG. There's a lot of story in it. But that being said, once you get out of the main quest area, which I'm almost out of, the main beginning area, I believe you're pretty much free to do whatever you want. And even within I suppose you could call it a tutorial area, but it's not really, because you don't really get told much. You can pretty much do what you want, talk to who you want, steal, lockpick, sneak around and do dodgy stuff, or be an upstanding citizen, doesn't matter.
But there's also consequence to your actions. There is
consequence to your actions. If you get caught stealing, you'll get thrown in jail. It's basically realistic in the expectations. If you get caught stealing, then you'll get taken to jail. If you get, caught starting a fight and get caught by the local authorities, you'll get taken to jail. You can run away, but then people know what you look like. You can change the way you look by changing your clothes. But yeah, it's very heavy RPG in the sense of the story behind it, and there's a lot of dialogue options, a lot of cutscenes, where you talk to certain NPCs or story quest NPCs, and you've got dialogue options based on your skill with literacy. You can try and use, the gift of the gab, or you can try and brute force conversations. You've got a lot of options open to you, and the more you do a certain type of thing, the better you get at it. So there's a skill progression system where the more you do something, the better you get at it. Whether that's sword fighting, archery, talking, sneaking, lockpicking, that kind of stuff.
One thing I do want to, if you'll just let me for 30 seconds, I want to read a Steam review. This is actually something that I thought was quite funny, that sounds like it may sum up the game quite well in terms of really what you need to be paying attention to.
Sure.
Because I think I have read stories of what people do is like, here is person A. He is your quest person that you have to go and get something from.
Yep.
If you, for some reason, earlier in the game have gone and, say, punched him, and then later on have a quest that requires you to go back to him to get something, he will remember you.
Yes.
And be like, no, I'm not giving this to you.
Yes.
So then how you going? But then the extra sort of layer comes from, well, you still have to finish your quest. Like, say, for example, you've got to get, a particular item that he has in his pocket,
Yep.
To take back to your quest giver. But he won't want to talk to you because you punched him earlier in the game. So how do you do it? Do you beat him again? Steal from him?
Yeah.
Yep. Wait till nighttime until he goes back to his home and mug him. So then it adds different varieties of things that you can actually do. But I want to quickly read this. It doesn't look too long, but I'll try and be as quick as I can. So this is a bit of a Steam review from someone. On my first quest, I was told to get some tools back from the town drunk. I broke into his house to try and steal them back, but the chest was locked. I tried to find the guy who sells lockpicks, but gave up on that and decided to try a different way. I went back and just started punching the man and was forced to run for my life after realizing he has the hands. I don't know why that's been blurred out. Hands of something. Bit weird. I went to some woman's house and knocked her unconscious and stole her onions. Then I sold the onions to buy charcoal for my father. I then used the rest of the gold to go to the tavern and get drunk, thinking that would up my speech enough to convince my fellow drunk to give me the tools back. I did not take into account that people do not want to talk to me after you punch them. He then quickly ran to a guard and I was quickly thrown in jail. I then burned to death in jail and had to restart. That was the tutorial. I thought that was quite cool.
Yeah.
It's just the actual interaction of people that you got to have with people to try and like make things happen. I thought it was quite clever that he went and knocked a woman unconscious, stole her stuff, her onions, went and bought it, and then went and tried to sell it, and then with whatever gold he left over, went to get drunk to try and get to a point where he was on the level of the town drunk, so they could then have a drunk conversation to try and get the keys back. I thought that's just like a clever way that the game seems to be designed.
When I did that quest, because it's actually one of the first ones your father gives you. So the premise of the game is you're the son of a blacksmith. Little bit of a lazy dude.
Careful,
like drinking.
It
I'm not gonna spoiler it. Because there is some fairly major spoilers early in the game. I won't spoil it. But basically, you wake up, your father gives you a quest. Go do this. Go do that. Go pick this up. I need these things to make this sword for this night. That's it. I'm not going to spoil anymore. But that drunkard, you've got to get some stuff from him, and there's quite a lot of different ways to do it. And the way I tried to do it the first time didn't work. He beat the shit out of me. And you can...
It's very violent. There's a lot of people being...
The game allows you to surrender in combat, which I didn't know at the time, but by some miracle I must have hit the right button. And he basically kicked me in the ass and said, go home to your father or I'll flog you some more. So then, again, I had to find a way to... get the quest item from this guy, and there's a couple of different things I did. I didn't actually go and steal someone's onions, but I found some.
Have you managed?
I have completed it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I completed it. And
did you do it in a way that you can tell us that's not going to spoil story?
Let's just say I made some further inquiries in the town and got some reinforcements, and there was a
You went and you mobbed him.
No. I got some friends of mine to cause a diversion whilst I broke into his house and lockpicked his chest.
Oh, there you go. Cool.
But you don't even have to do that. You could just flog him again and force him to give it to you. That's Yeah, there's so many different ways to do things, and again, like you said, there's reputation. People will remember you. They also, NPCs won't interact with you depending on their level of nobility. You know, if they're local street scum, they probably won't care. But if they're fairly well-to-do, they won't interact with you if you haven't had a bath or haven't. If you're untidy, if you're in commoner's clothes, they won't talk to you. You need to be in, upstanding citizen's clothes or knight's gear or that kind of stuff. So
it seems to be a lot.
It's a heavy RPG. It's a very heavy RPG.
Really got to be paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, and the story is very interesting so far. I've played it for. I'm just looking at my Steam stats. I've played it for 5 hours, so it's not a huge lot of time, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm definitely going to put some more time into it. If you're not a person for cutscenes, there's a lot of cutscenes in it, which progress the story and give you some interesting story points. But I'm hoping and I'm guessing from what I've read and seen in other reviews, once you get out of the beginning section of the map where I currently am, which I'm pretty much just out of, I think you can go anywhere, do anything, do whatever you want, and the cutscenes should sort of die down. Like, they're only when you have a discussion point with someone and then they start talking and giving you information. That's what I mean by cutscene. Like, not a big cinematic Blizzard thing. It's more of this guy's talking and narrating the situation or what they want you to do or whatever. It's kind of like Star Wars The Old Republic in that regard, where you've got dialogue options, and depending on what you pick, the person will speak to you and answer your question in whatever. They'll be offended or they'll be happy or they'll give you advice. So that's can be immersion breaking for depending on how you like to play, but I'm enjoying it so far.
But then I guess if you're someone who doesn't mind that because it's developing sort of character conversations and things like that, it's you might
you have some really interesting conversations with people, and you don't have to speak to everyone. But if you do sort of travel in the back alleys and speak to different people, you get some interesting side quests, you get some interesting information, you learn how to do some dodgy stuff. It's interesting. Open world, do what you want. Once it feels like it. In the beginning, it kind of feels like you're on rails where they're wanting you to complete certain things to get the story going. And then I think once you're outside of the beginning starter kingdom area, if you like, then it'll be more open. And I'm okay with that. Like, there's not too much of a tutorial. You kind of learn by doing and by getting your ass kicked and sent back to your mum to get bandaged up. But I'm enjoying it so far. I would. I'm not sure if it's worth the amount of money yet, but I am having fun, so it remains to be seen.
I generally will gauge if something's worth sometime. Well, one of my factors if I'm sort of gauging if something is worth the money is if I get X amount of hours.
I'm exactly
out of it.
the same. Yeah, exactly.
So like right now, after spending $100 on Sea of Thieves, I'm really hoping to get a good lot of tens of hours out of this. How
many hours do you want out of it?
I want at least a minimum of 50. Minimum. And that's my scale. So like Vermintide 2, for example, that was what, $25, $30? I'm going to be good if I get at least sort of 15 to 20 hours out of that.
So you're at like $2 an hour is your sort of thing.
Well,
potentially,
yeah.
Chris?
Oh, no, that doesn't make sense because you want
Doesn't
50. It? So, no. So you want...
I didn't really put that much thought into it. I was just I was just giving like brackets.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same. Like I always gauge it by you spend, 16, 18, $20 to go to the movies.
Oh, I suppose it does work.
So for a
you got $2, $2 an hour. Yeah.
You spend
but that's the thing. But then
comparable amount of money for hours worth of entertainment.
But then it's not just the hours, I guess. There's obviously a lot more to it. But then with like Vermintide 2, for example, I only enjoy playing it when I'm playing it with Brett because you've got that, team stuff
and only
going
me,
on.
no one else.
Luckily, Jesus, I didn't get it then.
It's like,
play with Grax.
You're not Brett.
So Sea of Thieves has it does have a lot to live up to.
Before we finish, you got to tell them about the Sea of Thieves band. That's my job. I'm totally doing that.
Look, Sea of Thieves is it's produced and published by Rare. So you can, if you are familiar with Rare over the years, particularly going back to Donkey Kong and things like that, very quirky type little bits and pieces in it with what they seem to put in their games. And one of the things they do with Sea of Thieves is you get instruments like an accordion, guitar, or
some sort of windy
guitar thing. It's probably a lute.
I don't know.
But what you actually do is, if you're sitting there and you open it up and start playing it, it'll play sort of, and all these pirate type songs. But the really cool thing is, if someone starts playing and then your crewmen pull out their instruments, it will recognize what song they're playing, and then when you start playing it, you'll actually play the same song but on a different beat. So it actually turns it into like this little musical thing going on, which is very cool. So Grax has already nominated himself as Team Yodeler.
Yay!
So he's gonna be the one in the back with his accordion, while the rest of us are actually doing all the hard work.
I'm just gonna be sitting there drinking my ale, playing my guitar-y looking thing.
So it was just fun. It's just quirky little things like that.
Just I think makes the game interesting. To the game. Completely pointless, but it's loads of fun. I really thought that was a cool touch.
Little gimmicky. Yes. But that is all
Let's
we have.
Let's go play it now.
Okay. Yes. All right. So we are done for this week. We are going to go play Sea of Thieves now. We're going to put a bit of effort and time into it tomorrow as well. So hopefully we'll bring more of Sea of Thieves back to you next weekend. Don't need to go there. And we'll talk more about it next week when we put a bit more hours into it. But for now, thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week in next episode.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks.